Are you ready to unlock the secrets to achieving your wildest dreams? Today, we're joined by a powerhouse, a multiple time best-selling author, entrepreneur, educator, and host of the Habits and Hustle podcast. She's here to reveal the transformative power of boldness in asking for what you desire and actually attaining it. This is the story of Bigger, Better, Bolder with Jennifer Cohen. Jennifer, great to have you on.
Thank you for having me. This has been a pleasure already, and we haven't even started yet.
I know we got 15 minutes. I love the pre. I always say I almost want to release like what is said before a podcast starts to be the fly on the wall of getting the kind of associations of who we are and the inside stories out.
Totally. It's always the best part, usually. It's always the before and after that always is the best part. And, I always say to people now, whenever I do my podcast, I'm always like, wait, don't say anything. Let's do it on the camera. And without fail, it always changes. It never is as good. I don't know why that is, but oh well.
It's like when you say action, you freeze up, right? If camera's just on you, you could be totally natural. Once someone says something like, hey, I'm recording, everything changes. And
I know. It's kind of terrible. I mean, you think after a while you get used to it, right? Because I mean, mine, I've done like 500 episodes. I don't know how many episodes you've done with your podcast, but in general, you think that it would get more laissez-faire with that, but
you would think so. And I was hoping so. I'm at 150 or right around there somewhere, a little bit more probably recorded. And no, I think you just get more comfortable with the idea that it'll be uncomfortable.
Yeah. That's true, which is part of life, right? The whole thing is to get out. One of the things that, we're talking about today is how to, I guess, achieve what you want and success and all these other things. And part of that is like being comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? So I guess that's part of this great segue into what we're talking about.
And it's part of being bold, which is like a big thing, of course, of what we're talking about, to be uncomfortable. And you've been bold for a long time. And I want to start where you're a bold story of yours, the Keanu Reeves story. How about you give us that?
Yes, but I'm not going to tell you the whole story again. Because I tell you I'm going to be bold and tell you, I'm not saying it again because it's been asked so many times. This is what I would say to people. Watch the TED Talk that I did because it will give you all of it. But to basically give you the the Coles Notes version, that was an exceptionally pivotal moment in my life. When I was really young, I met Keanu Reeves, or I knew Keanu Reeves was going to be where in my hometown, which is a small place in Canada.
Winnipeg. It's not that small. I know of Winnipeg. I've been to Winnipeg. So
you know it's so funny, Casper, that you said that, because I said that on my talk on the TED Talk. I'm like, I come from a small town, Winnipeg. The amount, and this TED Talk, it went viral, right? Yeah. So there's thousands and thousands of comments. You wouldn't believe how many people commented about Winnipeg. They're like, by the way, Winnipeg is not small. I live in Winnipeg and it has 700,000, 650,000 people. Or like, how dare you call Winnipeg small?
That's what they got stuck on.
Yeah, they were so offended.
They're like, we love Winnipeg.
Yeah, they were so offended that I called it a small town. Like it was like blasphemy. But anyway, with that being said, I talk all about this thing that happened to me when I was a young girl. I was 17 or 18 years old. That really changed the trajectory of how I think. And it involved, obviously, Keanu Reeves. So a cliffhanger, you're going to watch the TED Talk. But, what's so interesting, though, is in life, right? Like you don't know what you don't know. And you never know where you get with something until you actually try something. And, being a Canadian, I really believe that you do miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, like Wayne Gretzky says. And my platform and my entire message of why I wrote the book and why I talk about this pretty much ad nauseum at this point is that you need to ask for what you want. You need to be bold. You need to curate and design the life that you want for yourself. And, if you don't do it for yourself, it's going to be designed for you. Someone else will do it. So you might as well take the initiative. And, that was really my overarching message of why. And I believe that to be, by the way, I believe that to be really important for the quality of someone's life, because I think someone's mental health is directly correlated to their day-to-day living, what they're doing, how they're spending their time, who they're spending their time with, what they're doing to spend their time doing it. And if you don't take that, bull by the horn and like I said, allow someone else to do it, automatically the quality of your life and happiness diminishes.
Yeah. And I would go as far as saying, and then your health diminishes too.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
Isn't that all correlated?
It is. I mean, I think everything is like intertwined, right? Like people get physically ill by being mentally ill, right? Like stress also causes tons of different physical ailments, as we all know and talk about. And I think if someone is mentally strong or in the right headspace, it changes their outlook on life, their perspective, their reframe of how they think of things. And a lot of life is your perception and your perspective and how you go through it. I'll give you a little story. My husband recently broke his neck and his back. Yeah, like crazy. 6 months ago, he flipped over his handlebars going on a mountain bike, going down really fast, and landed on his neck. And most people, almost everybody, the doctors have said, would have either died or been paralyzed. I mean, there's no one that made it out. No one's ever had this particular accident and made it out alive. He basically crushed all his vertebrae. And, similar to what happened to Christopher Reeves, remember Superman? But my husband always has had a very happy and very positive outlook on life. Very, always sees the glass half full. Whereas I always not joked all the time, but kind of teased him about having like rose colored glasses, right? Like no matter what's happening, he'll always flip it. Like he likes everyone. He always finds the good in people, that type of person, right? Yeah. So his constitution is already something. So when this accident happened, he basically at this point, like 6 months later, he's pretty much healed. I mean, it's like literally a miracle. I mean, they said he wouldn't heal for like 2 years and it would be a long thing and an uphill battle and he wouldn't be doing all these things. All this to tell you that why my husband has been so happy his whole life is that he is one of these people that basically called the shots in his own life. He decided what he's going to do, when he's going to do it. And it changed the trajectory and perspective of how he lives. And I think I've seen this time and time again, I think we have a choice. We can choose how we live our lives, what we decide to think about and do, which directly it basically impacts our physical health, our mental health, and everything else in between.
I think that's a big thing of where you find, or at least I've seen, is that idea of like spirituality. A lot of people connect that to religion, where I feel like that's so much of authenticity, purpose, your consciousness, like your why is that connection. If you don't have that, you're going to flutter around. There's no way you could be like a bold person if you don't know your purpose in life. You're kind of jumping around, right? Isn't that something to know your why, to be an authentic person and not try and follow the crowd?
I think that being bold helps you figure out what your why is. That's what I believe. I think if you don't have a why or you don't know your why yet, the only way to get to that answer is to be bold. And that means, going after and chasing what you want and not just taking what you get. And so we tend to live our lives, most people, in this place of good enough, like, oh, she's pretty enough and nice enough. I'll marry her or him, I'll date him. Oh, that job, it's okay. It's good enough. I'll just work there for 30, 40 years of my life. It's fine to pay the bills. And we don't actually, like I said, chase what those things are that we have interest in, curious about, because we think we're not good enough. We think we basically, it's our own self-doubt. We think we don't have the talent because we've never done it before. That means we can't do it we we kind of go through whatever comes our way, what's available. So we acquiesce, as opposed to being like, you know what, if what's the worst that can happen? I tried X and it doesn't work. Okay. So I'm no worse off today than I was before trying. Right. And the other thing we do is we tend to look at other people and feel like like it could only happen to them. But that them is actually you. And the only difference between the two is that like they had a little bit more self-belief to actually try and fail and keep on going and like getting back up and doing it again and again. So, and believe me, and I've seen this time and time again, even with my podcast. I mean, my podcast is basically a podcast full of the most exceptional people on the planet and what their habits are, and like the best experts in the world. And when I've met everybody under the sun by this point. And honestly, when I meet them in person, it's not like I'm so impressed by this one or that one. Like I am impressed because they had the resilience and the fortitude to keep on trying. But like what the through line with all of them is that's the thing that was impressive, is that they just kept on attempting and not just taking no for an answer, or not putting themselves in a box because they didn't think they were good enough. Like the truth of the matter is, even when you do have self-doubt, even when you don't think you're good enough, you do it anyway. And the only way, right? The only way to like get the confidence is to do something over and over again. And that's how you get better. And that's how you learn. So that to me is like how you actually get to your why or to your goal, is to be bold and try things even when you don't know something, ask for something, be much more, specific, and attempt.
Yeah. And, to bring that into health and medicine, because I want to talk about like that idea of boldness, because we usually assign that to like success in business, right?
Mhm.
They were bold, they made money, they changed an industry around. But that's not the only definition of bold. You're bold in every single action you can make in a day, in your happiness and in your health as well. If someone's though in a disease state, it's kind of difficult, I feel like, to be bold. And what, 60-70% of us are chronically ill these days.
Mhm.
How would you go about telling someone that finds it hard sometimes to get out of bed because they are in this disease state, that finds it difficult to find enjoyment in these things and everything? What are the steps to start being bold if you're already in a kind of compromised state?
Okay, why don't we take it a step back, right? So
Yeah.
what I would say is the definition of success is very different for everybody. What some people find successful is financial success.
Right.
Some people should say, I think a lot of it is financial success is like a piece of the pie, right? To me, being successful is very it's very much more eclectic. It could be that, but it's also about having success personally with with friendships and relationships that are meaningful and satiating. It's about having good health. If you don't have your health, you have nothing. So like
Yes.
all the money in the world and all the success in the world and everything else means nothing if you're not healthy. So let's take it back to the beginning, right? A core foundational part of what this is all about is about building habits for you to be bold, and building habits for you to have the confidence to actually go and get what you want, right? And to me, health is the first step. So exercise, number one, exercise. Exercise not only it's not just for your physical health, it's for your mental health, right? It builds mental strength, it builds confidence. And, I think you have to start there. You start by thinking about boldness as a skill that you practice versus something that you were born with. And once you practice that, you can practice it with every aspect of your life. So if you're somebody who is trying to be bold while you're sick, think about trying to be bold before you get sick. Be preventative about it.
Yeah.
Because then you already are priming your brain for what to do and what to ask for and who to go to. Like part of being bold is being exceptionally curious and part of that is like, if you are ailing and you're sick, what can I do? Who should I talk to get better? What other things can I do? Being curious, asking people, talking to people, researching things, and being like, and also momentum, like action begets action. So the question is, how did you get sick? Are you sick because of inflammation? Chronic inflammation is a big thing of why people are aging. I mean, and chronically ill. So how do you reduce inflammation? Like, let's take it back. Like, we got to dial things back to the root cause of why something is happening.
And I feel that when you get into that, you also have to start to break down some belief systems, because a lot of people, their belief system is that conventional medicine will save them, or at least, keep them alive or whatever. So the action of that responsibility of everything you're talking about in prevention and choices and everyday things is acquiesced. It's basically said, don't worry about it. You're bound to get diseased anyway. That's what conventional medicine's kind of like. That will be your aging state. And there's a
Right.
pill for your ill. So if your belief is that conventional medicine is your savior, or that it is this scientific, robust kind of system that is very positive and will help you, then you're going to stay in that system of just give me a pill. And I mean, you probably have seen this too. We know people that are ill and just keep doing the same things that made them ill, but just keep going back to the doctor, and doctor's like, just take this pill. It's your genetics. Don't worry about eating differently.
Right.
So
Well, most
don't we have to
doctors aren't
start to
trained
break
that
down
way.
that belief system?
Well, yes, I believe that's also, again, that's part of that's about being curious and wanting to understand things beyond your, myopic view, right? Like, there's
Yeah.
so many things that you can do preventatively to prevent a lot of these illnesses, or before. Listen, everyone knows that, like, that there's a reason, there's a reason why that is the loop that happens, right? Big pharma makes money, you get disease, you take a pill, and then rinse and repeat, right? There's all sorts of things that you can do before that becomes a fine. Like, but by the way, let me just say this. I believe there's a place for all Western medicine. Believe me,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, but I also believe there's a lot of other alternative things that people can do to, 10x their health naturally, or with alternative things before relying on a pill and being diseased. I just mentioned it very briefly, but inflammation, right?
Mhm.
Inflammation is like a leading cause of so many problems, and also lack of muscle mass on someone's body. That's how
Mm.
people get injured, and there's so many problems with that. So if we're able to build lean muscle mass, it's free. We can strength train. You know that there's been a lot of data and research on that in itself. Just by strength training, it is and helps preserve, and not only preserve, and I guess like elongate your life by how many years because of your state. So I think that, like, it's not as nothing as like is a simple answer,
Right.
right? Everything is very nuanced depending on what the circumstances is.
Absolutely. And if you ask anyone that's already in that chronically diseased state that's suffering, they will say, like, absolutely, health is your greatest wealth. But it's sort of like someone that has a little bit of a toothache and just hates going to the dentist. They're like, I'm going to put this off because I hate the dentist. Like, I just don't want to do it. Right. And you
Yeah.
keep putting it off till it's like, holy shit, we're going to have to drill out all your teeth. And this
Yes.
is going to be like a massive undertaking, and you're screwed. And it's like, why didn't I go earlier?
It's
Like, we
true.
we don't value prevention too much in our society, I feel like. Like, we kind of like are very, we look at people who have health as like, oh wow, look at them. They're the influencers of the world just because they're healthy. That to
Well,
me is even weird.
I think a couple of things about that. A lot of alternatives for preventative they're considered kind of quasi cutting edge. They're not
Right.
mainstream, or
Yeah.
they're alternative and they're cutting edge. And because of that, maybe it's getting better. But I do feel there's a cost to these things. And a lot of people they're not financially in a place where they can afford it. So they're kind of, shit out of luck in a way,
Yeah.
right? That's why you see a lot of the people who are doing all of these things that we were talking about, that you're talking about, like we were mentioning earlier, like stem cells, exosomes, all the things, there's a financial commitment. And so that's why you see like only celebrities and influencers and people who have, acts like money and contacts trying these things. Now, the problem is a lack of education. I think a lot of people don't even know what's out there. People don't know what they don't know. And there are things that are actually more cost effective that can actually, basically give them a longer duration of life, quality of life, but they just don't know what's even available. Like I was saying, like forget about like things that are obvious, like like strength training, exercise. People can do other basics, like, we're talking about red light therapy. There's a lot of things that people could do with red light therapy, saunas, cold
Sure.
plunges, like, hot cold therapy that can really benefit. People can benefit, and it's not going to break your bank.
Hugely. I mean, you talk about that, like red light, UV, like that is sun. That's being out in the sun. Like you're going to get red light therapy there. You talk about grounding, right? Frequency
Yeah,
therapies, all of
grounding.
that, right?
Yeah,
All these things, just walking in nature, is an amazing health hack, you could say. That, of course, that's emulated in many different ways with technology, but that's what I've found a lot. Like people don't get on, and we have hundreds of pieces of technology. They are just trying to emulate what nature already does. And nature's
exactly.
free, right? Anyone could be outside and put their feet in the ground, hands in the ground. That is free. So I agree with you, but then it needs to pivot to, are you actually going to take those 5 minutes to do breathing exercise, meditation, or are you going to jump on your phone and get stressed in the morning?
Yeah.
And then it's, what do you value?
It's a choice. So, right. So then it comes down to everything is a choice. So
Yes.
first of all, it's like, do you even know what the options are? I think I guess it depending on your perspective, like in my
Yeah.
life, in my world, I feel like it's information overload. People don't know what to do, how to do it, where to do it, because everyone's just vomiting a bunch of stuff. And so and like I said, I'm very cognizant of the fact that it's not so easy for a lot of people to have access to all these things that are really expensive.
Mhm.
So I'm all about giving people simple solutions that are realistic and meeting them where they are, right? That's why I'm a believer in telling them to exercise every day and to hydrate every day and to your point, like try to find a sauna or do things that are like put your feet in the ground or sit outside, have sunlight on your face for 10 minutes. Things that are like basic that like they're small, but yeah, and breath work, meditation, journaling they sound like trivial, but everything is accumulative, right? Like if
Yes.
you can do these things and these add up to a really big change and they're free, basically, right? Like they don't need all the money and you can get a lot of, you can actually really get a lot of good out of it. So to me, I think it's about people need to really be very discerning of who they're looking at, who they're following, and getting really good information and trying to integrate these small habits into their lives slowly, not too much because it would overwhelm you and it will
Yeah.
be just too much, but like a little goes a long way. A little goes a long way. And
Absolutely. And
right?
there's a paradox of choice too. Like you said,
Mhm.
too much information, it causes paralysis. And so
Mhm.
you do
Analysis
nothing,
paralysis. Yeah.
right? And so you stay there. And then you have this whole notion of, well, it's nice that you have the time. I don't have the time. And you personally live a very
Mhm.
busy life. You're doing so many things. You have two children. You're doing like, how do you find balance and time to do these things? And what do you tell those people that simply say, I can't find the time to do these things you're
Mhm.
talking of? That's why I'm, putting on the weight and doing this. I'm doing my best.
You know what? I think we all have things in our lives that we prioritize, right? Like I
Yeah.
just make it a priority. It's not even an option for me. Like you got to figure out, people need to figure out in their lives certain non-negotiables that they stick to.
Mm,
Because to me, working out every morning is a non-negotiable. I won't go into a meeting unless I do that because number one, I go into my meeting with a clearer head, more focus, more energy. I show up better. And I only know that because I've been doing this for so long where it's become such a habit of mine. But what happens is people give up before they even start, before they even feel the results, before they even see to notice the difference. So the first thing I tell people is don't give up. Like, even when you don't feel like it, like I said earlier, you do it anyway. And eventually, slowly but surely, you kind of end up missing it or see how it's actually improved your life on the other end. Energy begets energy, right? For me, exercise is much more of a cognitive thing. Like, to me now, it's much more about a cognitive thing. Like, it gives me, like I said, focus. It gives me much more alertness. So that to me is like a non-negotiable. And when people don't have time, well, we have time to blow dry our hair and take a shower and brush our teeth. These are just things that are like basic, fundamental things we need to do, right? So is exercising. So is sometimes breath work, and to get your nervous system back in check. People have to reframe how they are looking at their overall health. Because again, health is wealth. Without that, you have nothing. With it, everything else is better. You're like, everything else, not only better, you do everything better, right? And it's a mindset shift. And so these things are not, like I said, even time consuming. Like, I'm a big believer in people think that if they work out, let's say they need like an hour to exercise, right? The truth is, if you can move your body, 15 minutes 3 times a day, it's actually more beneficial than doing 1 hour of exercise. Because if you're doing this 1 hour of exercise, you're moving around and then you're sedentary the rest of the 23 hours. That's better than 0, but it's still not great. But if you're moving your body 3 times a day for 15, 10 minutes, whatever you can, you're like moving your body, your circulation, everything is like getting itself going again. That's actually better. Also, most times we say to ourselves, oh, we don't have the thing. I don't want to do it. We think of all the things. But if you just say, you know what, I'm just going to do 5 minutes. That first 5 minutes is usually the hardest. Putting your shoes on, getting dressed, and actually going down. So if you trick your brain and be like, I'm just only going to do 5 minutes. Once you're doing it, that 5 minutes typically turns into 10, 15, 20, right? Like, that's the hardest part. The other thing are these other habits, right? Like for stress, like the breath work, the meditation, whatever it is. Like I said to people, pick a couple and implement those. And then once you're doing that, you're off to a good start. Let's move on to something else. But like I said, it's baby steps. And what I tell people is, don't let your brain stop you, because you end up fighting with yourself. You justify why you don't need it, but you don't give it a chance to actually, I guess, settle in, and you miss it. Like, there's like a gap between there.
Your brain is often your worst enemy, right? It's like, hey, just put on Netflix for a few minutes and like it'll be fine. Next thing you know, you've been watched like a whole day worth and you're telling me you're out of time, right? So of course it's that, but I feel like what you're saying makes sense. Just trick it the other way. Be like, hey, brain, like 5 minutes of this breath work. That's all we need to get started. Then you could keep doing what you're doing, and then you go from there. You see
2
those
minutes.
5 minutes, right?
2 minutes for breath work. You don't
1
even need
minute,
that
3
much.
deep breaths, right? Already changes from sympathetic to parasympathetic state, calms you down, blood pressure goes down, the cascade of events goes from there. That's it, just 3 breaths, right? When we all breathe so shallow and are all stressed all day, which is horrible for us.
Very.
Now, you have this amazing podcast, Habits Hustle. You've interviewed some amazing minds. Is there anything that like sticks out to you that you've seen a commonality as it relates to health, wellness, and longevity?
You know what I will say, what I find to be super interesting is that almost every single person I've ever interviewed, when I ask them like one habit that they do daily, besides like the majority of them say exercise, meditation. I was surprised of how many people are meditating. And what I find also interesting is meditation doesn't have to be you sitting with your feet crossed with this,
Right.
like you can get into a meditative state in different ways. Like I find it when I'm like, I get into my flow state, I guess I call it, when I'm like jogging. That's when I get my best ideas. That's what's good for me. I'm not good at the meditation at all, like that kind that I was just mentioning. But I will say, like, that's the one thing, the meditation has been like the one through line that I've heard everybody, almost everybody, say that they have integrated into their lives. And it's really changed a lot of their nervous system, their stress levels, perspective. It's been like a game changer for a lot of people. That's one.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's working out for your mental state. That's what it is. We focus on the physical state so much,
Yes.
which is
exactly.
wonderful. But like that mind, power that you have to work through things, to get through the stress, to make better decisions, like that takes training too. And meditation
Absolutely.
isn't always easy. You got to still everything, which is freaking hard. Your monkey mind just jumping up and down.
Oh,
You got to be
God,
like, chill out for a second. Let me gain clarity. And that
Mhm.
clarity brings so much in suddenly that you could start to make sense of. So I
And it's
really
hard.
appreciate that.
And it's
Oh, yeah.
hard.
Yeah. But again, right? Start small, like a
Yeah.
minute, right?
No,
Just do a minute
listen, I've
guided, or
tried.
do it when you're working out, like you said. That is a
Yeah.
good state. Like the
I think
movements.
so.
That's kind of the Tai Chi and all of that. If you're moving and clearing the mind and yoga and all these things, that's actually a very good thing too. So you don't have to be sitting there in a quiet room to reach a meditative state.
Yeah, exactly. I think that there's a lot of, that's why I wanted to be very clear. I want to clarify and be clear that if people listen to this podcast and they hear that, they're like, oh, I tried, it doesn't work for me. It's like, I know, I'm with you. But that's not the only way to do it. There's other ways. And the reason why I say find a way that works for you is because of the, all the benefits that come with it. And don't beat yourself up if it doesn't work in that common way that you're thinking about it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. And these are, like I said, these are easy things that people can do just to like level up a little bit, and really make like the quality of life just a little bit better.
Absolutely. And again, start small, celebrate small wins too. If you do 2 days in a row, awesome. If you miss one day, just blow it off and get right back to it the next day. Don't beat yourself up, because it's usually that like habit of things, right? When you
All
start
about
doing
habits.
it,
Yeah.
it's like I see patients all the time. It's like, oh, I missed a day of my supplements, like, and they just stop. It's like, no, who cares? Like, you wouldn't do that if it was an antibiotic, right? If you missed one and you kept needing it for like your infection, just keep going after that. Any doctor will say it's consistency, not the precision of the time you
No.
took it. If you were 8:01 versus 8 o'clock, like consistency is health.
Consistency wins every day, over intensity, over everything. It's not, you don't have to be perfect. It's like consistency over perfection. It's like you don't have to be
Yeah.
perfect every day. If you do something 80%, you're still great. You're still like winning the game. You know what I
Oh, yeah.
mean? And we have to be a little bit more lenient on ourselves, but at the same time, have non-negotiables that we try to adhere to.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you're good and do the thing 80% of the time, you're still rocking it.
Absolutely. You've got a lot going on. Looking ahead, what are some of the project or goals that you're excited about?
Mm. Oh, I'm doing another TED Talk that I'm really excited about.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I'm doing a lot of stuff actually,
I'm
Casper.
sure.
I'm building. I'm involved in a couple of different businesses that I'm super excited about, and summertime is coming, and so I'm happy about the weather. There's a lot of things, but like at the end of the day, I think I'm just happy overall with life. Does it
Mm,
there's, you know what I mean? Like, I think that that's the goal, right? Like, I think that people need to, like I said, I'm going to circle it right back, not on purpose, but I feel like, it's more important for me if people look in the future too much. 90%, they're looking too much at the future results and they're not really focusing on what's in front of them in the present. And I like to
mhm.
kind of tell people to focus on what's in front of you. Don't worry so much about the future. Focus on what's in front of you first.
Absolutely. I think that was a post of yours, right? today?
Yes.
What
How
is,
did you
yeah.
know? I just did that.
90% of people are so obsessed with the future ideal and have forgotten the present reality. I like
Yes.
that. I just
Thank
looked
you.
at
Thank you. I know. I just thought about that. Yeah, I was thinking about that. I'm like, you know what? Like, that's what I feel. Everyone's like, what's happening like later, next time, in 5 years, this. And like, we're
Yeah.
so preoccupied either with the past or with the future.
Oh,
And,
absolutely.
like what's happened to us like 20, 30 years ago. And that's what's affecting us now and in the future. Like, forget about what happened in the past. Forget about what can be happening in the future. None of that will be even relevant the future unless you
Yeah.
focus on what's happening in front of you. Like, that's the problem. Focus on what's in front of you and the present.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the power of now, right?
It's the
I could
power of
totally
now. It kind of,
yeah,
yeah, and
just
it's
that's
so
all you
true.
have. You don't have the second, but like before or after this, you literally
Yeah.
just have now.
People keep on asking, like, people always ask, well, what's in the future? Like, what are you going to do 5 years from now or 1 year from now? I'm like, honey, I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow. I don't know. Okay. Like 5 years from now, a year from now. I have big dreams, I guess, but like, like, where's that thing? Like, tell God your plans and, he will.
He laughs, I
He
believe. Yeah,
laughs. Like, nothing I've ever planned ever actually really ever came to fruition in that way. That's kind of like part of the thing. Like, I want to be good now.
Yeah.
I want to like figure out things that I can do now that can maybe help, enhance my future later. But that future won't be enhanced unless I focus on what's happening right now in front of me.
And that's the beauty of the journey. It's unknown, it's unexpected, but you could absolutely enjoy it no matter what. And I think that's a big part of it too, is like this idea of health, happy, like gratitude in the moment, even if it's a bad moment. You feel like I've spoken to so many patients that were in the depths of it. It's like if you could find gratitude, then you will find healing later, and it'll be so much better. Like just find it no matter where you are, and remember
Yeah,
that like just being alive is a blessing, and that's enough, right?
I
So I
love
think
that.
that's a
Yeah.
big message here. But Jennifer, where can people learn more about you, buy the book, just get in touch with you?
Well, they can buy the book on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, like wherever, all those fine book places that people normally get books. And they can find me on Instagram at the real Jen Cohen, or TikTok, all the places. And then they also can sign up for my free newsletter at jennifercohen.com.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate that, and living boldly.
Thank you for having me.
If you're listening, be sure to visit jennifercohen.com for more information. Also, Jennifer's podcast, habitshustle.com. And until next time, continue writing your own healing story.